Hey, what's up? My name is Jonathan Fink, and this is my audiobook series. I wrote this book called The Republic Baseball League, and this is Volume 1, and now we're going to read Chapter 9, The Theory of Creative Destruction. Professor Dempsey awoke before the alarm to the sound of very heavy rain beating against his bedroom window. He got up looking for Sarah, but she was already gone. Her note on the kitchen table read, "Left really early this morning. Important meeting this afternoon to prepare for. It's pouring cats and dogs. Be sure to take your raincoat to campus today. See you tonight. Love you." Despite the weather report, Dempsey was in his car about an hour later on his way downtown to the barber shop. He and Mo Franklin had some serious baseball card memorabilia to discuss. It was still pouring when Dempsey and Mo completed their business. His ride from the baseball card store to the University of campus took much longer than usual. Typically, about 15 minutes. The drive took over an hour. He had to contend with heavy traffic, some local street flooding, and a bad three-car accident on Broadway near Country Club Plaza. The accident required him and every other driver to detour onto less traveled local streets. As a result, for the first time in his teaching career, Dempsey was late for class. Waiting in the lecture hall for their professor's arrival, Rachel turned to Corey, sitting in the row behind her, and said, "Okay, I'll bet you $20 that Professor Dempsey is wearing another baseball jersey today, and it will be a jersey of someone who played in the National League." Corey replied, "You're on. I'll take that bet. I think he'll be wearing another American League jersey today." RJ overheard their conversation and chimed in. "He wore Lou Gehrig's American League jersey to our last class." Wanting to join in on the wagering, RJ said, "Anyone want to bet that not only will Professor Dempsey be wearing an American League jersey, but I think he'll repeat that Lou Gehrig jersey because of his affection for his grandfather." Rachel finished the conversation saying, "No way this baseball fanatic repeats that jersey today or any jersey this entire semester. For $20, you're on, RJ. I'll take that bet." Rachel, Corey, and RJ all did a thumbs up motion just as Dempsey opened the door and entered the lecture hall. The buzz of class chatter quieted down. Dempsey walked in, completely drenched, with his raincoat dripping a trail of water on the floor as he walked across the room toward the closet. He said, "Everyone, please forgive me for being late to class. I was downtown at the barber shop negotiating a trade with Mo Franklin for a classic 1964 Willie Mays baseball card I want to give to my dad for his birthday. Mays was his favorite ball player, and I'm sure he'll be thrilled to receive it." Realizing that Dempsey had just revealed another layer of his personality to his students, Rachel, Corey, and RJ looked at each other, smiled, and awaited Dempsey's next move. They were not disappointed. Dempsey did his best impression of Fred Rogers, who was the host of the educational children's television show Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood for more than 3 decades. He slowly took off his wet raincoat, shook it to remove excess water, and carefully hung it in the closet. Doing so revealed that he was wearing a Lenny Dykstra home white, blue pinstripe New York Mets jersey with his number 4 on the back. Rachel turned around and silently cheered with a fist bump to celebrate her winning bets. She sheepishly smiled when she saw the look on Corey and RJ's faces for betting wrong. Dempsey began his lecture for the day by asking the class if anyone had ever heard the phrase creative destruction before reading their assignment for today. He was pretty confident that none had. This was confirmed when no one raised their hand. Then he asked if anyone had ever heard the name Joseph Schumpeter before. Again, not one person raised their hand. Well then, he said jokingly, today is your lucky day. He told his students that Schumpeter, an Australian political economist, was the finance minister of Austria in 1919. In 1932, he immigrated to the United States to teach economics at Harvard University. 7 years later, he became a U.S. citizen. 3 years after that, during his tenure at Harvard, he coined the term creative destruction. According to Schumpeter, creative destruction describes an organic and dynamic process that occurred in free markets as a result of capitalistic development and business cycles. In an ever-flowing, ever-changing, organic ecosystem of voluntary exchanges of goods and services that the professor envisioned, many fluctuating dynamics were constantly reshaped or replaced by entrepreneurship, innovation, and competition. As implied by the word destruction, the process inevitably resulted in winners and losers. Schumpeter theorized that companies committed to older technologies experienced a decline in market share and profits. Meanwhile, free-thinking entrepreneurs created new companies and trained their employees to work with new technologies. These companies succeeded and inevitably gained market share. Companies that did not adapt to the changing times or didn't change quickly enough eventually lost value and possibly went out of business. Dempsey gave a simple example of creative destruction in the U.S. economy. He said that when Henry Ford introduced assembly line innovation in 1913, this new manufacturing technology revolutionized the automobile industry and changed the transportation industry forever. While Ford's invention dramatically increased the standard of living for society at large, it also displaced, then replaced, an older business, horse buggy manufacturing and distribution. Dempsey indicated that over the last 3 decades, the internet had become the dominant economic force of creative destruction. Companies such as Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Netflix, Expedia, and Uber had dramatically changed the landscape of their industries and the global economy. He said that these companies will continue to do so, that is, until creative destruction finds them. The main theme of Dempsey's lecture was that creative destruction is a natural part of the life cycle of a vibrant, healthy, free-flowing economic system. Some corporations adapt to changing market environments, and some do not. The market capitalization of companies that do will rise, while those that don't will fall. Some companies will go bankrupt and just disappear. He explained that the end result, while chaotic at times, is a never-ending upward trend of economic growth and higher standards of living through innovation and improved technology. As a final thought on the subject of creative destruction, Dempsey suggested that his students research the 10 largest companies in the U.S. by market value in 1970, and then do the same for 2021. Dempsey knew that not one of the companies on the 1970 list would be on the 2021 list. Before dismissing the class, Dempsey reminded his students that he expected their completed assignments on Adam Smith's free market theory and John Locke's economics of liberty concept on his desk by the end of next class. As the students walked out of the lecture hall, Corey turned to Rachel and said, "Okay, double or nothing. Dempsey wears an American League jersey next class." Rachel looked at him with confidence and said, "You're on." Now, I'm heading off to the library to complete that assignment. RJ and Corey agreed to join Rachel and followed her out of the lecture hall. Dempsey removed his surprisingly still damp raincoat out of the lecture hall closet and headed for the university parking lot. He called Sarah from the car to make plans for the evening. Her secretary said she was still in a meeting and expected her to be there for some time. When Dempsey got home, he knew there'd be plenty of time before Sarah walked through the door. He strolled into the kitchen, sat down at the table in front of his laptop computer, put on his headphones, played John Fogerty's song Center Field on repeat, and did some additional research on his PhD thesis. End of Chapter 9. Up next, Chapter 10, The Perils of Central Planning. I am author Jonathan Fink, and this has been Volume 1 of the Republic Baseball League, part of my audiobook series. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks so much for joining me. You guys take care. God bless.
This month, we have some great sports card stories from across the U.S. and talk to an author from nearby Leawood, Kansas, who has written a book about returning to collecting after 3 decades away.
My day job is I'm a financial advisor, so I've been investing for over 20 years. In a way to express my love for the hobby, I decided, what if I write an investment book, Sports Card Collectors Club, and treat the stock market the same way I would treat the card market. And so I thought, well, how would a day trader invest in cards? How would a venture capitalist buy and sell cards? How would a hedge fund do it? As I would go through my trials and tribulations, I realized that for as much fun as I was having investing, there was something missing. And one day I was watching the Royals game on television, and it was a rain delay. And the Card Life television show came on. I was watching that episode, I was watching Matt Strom open cards and rip packs, and I started getting the warm, fuzzy feelings. I said, this is what I want to be doing. I want to get back to really collecting and ripping cards and building sets. And that's where the story of my book has changed. I go from investing back to collecting.
I'll also open a variety of boxes from different sports. So he hit the home run off me in like the 7th inning. And then in the 8th inning, JT hit a double, so he's standing on second. And Mason Wynn asked him, he's like, hey JT, he's like, I heard Strom collects cards of guys that take him deep. He's like, does that mean he's gonna send me over a couple cards to sign tomorrow? And after the game, we had won. I mean, winning is the only thing that's important to me. So it's like, I was good after the game, whatever, and JT comes up to me and he's like, hey Stromy, he was really genuine. Like he wasn't taking shots. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, when I got to second, Mason asked if you're gonna send a card over for him.
I'm just looking around my basement here, just walls covered with concert posters and toys, and just like, I have no intention of selling these things. I collect because I want to show off the things I love and do it in fun ways. And it just never crossed my mind that, hey, I'm going to go buy this thing just so I can resell it. Like that to me isn't a pure collector mentality. And obviously things change and times change. And, in order for things to survive right now, you have to have that sort of chase for something valuable.
Yeah, it needs to be a circus. You know what? The truth is, I actually watched the live stream on eBay Live with Ken Golden and Logan Paul. They ripped a box of 86 Flair and a box of Series 1 Pokemon. And you know what? It was very entertaining. They're both polarizing characters. I thought it was entertaining. But you know what? After every pull, they immediately are showing the value. And and it begs the question, are we creating, not we, is the industry creating a gambling culture which has a real downside?
It already has. Right. Not created. It's here.
Yeah, and that's a concern. I guess for me, I hope to be an influence where we focus more on collecting, because you know what, when markets crash, collectors don't get hurt at all. Because the Sandy Koufax you bought that because it makes you feel good. It brings back good memories.
Said this one traded for my first big win. Jonathan Fink on the line tonight.
You have created community, so let's talk about that. I went to Rip Night at your shop. Let's rip it on the pack. And I went to your Rip Night 2 years ago. And it was one of the best. I wrote about it in Volume 1. It was one of the best times I've ever had. You guys had this giant scoreboard where you had the chase cards, and everyone can buy whatever product you wanted, like buy 3, get 1 free, whatever product, whatever it was. You then, if you pull a Bronny James, you then get another blaster. Or I pulled a Reed Shepherd auto, and then I got a free T-shirt. And I sat around the table with strangers and had the best time ever. So let's talk about how important community is. And what you guys do is provide an anchor for community in our town. How important that is.
Yeah, definitely. You know, like you said, one of our taglines, we say we'll make an offer on anything, but like you said, I mean, we got to pay what it's worth, and so if it's junk wax, it's going to be junk wax prices, which unfortunately, you know, a lot of people end up thinking that their 87 Tops Barry Bonds is going to be a couple $100 or
it's
something.
worth nothing, people.
Brand and notoriety. And so when you're pitching these stories to these athletes, like I've reached out to a couple of different athletes about writing a potential article about their collections and having them kind of share their story. And it's like, yes, like I write for collectibles on SI, which is under the Sports Illustrated umbrella. It does carry weight. Like it does, people recognize that brand. It is important. And so I'm super grateful that I've been given the opportunity to write for that staff.
The top segment that was done by you on you was so well produced, right? Did all that come from the conversation you had with Michael Rubin? Is that how that put you on the map to such an extent that all those opportunities happened? How did that happen? Did you get a call one day?
Said this one traded for my first big win. Jonathan Fink on the line tonight with a pack in hand and a story that bites.
I didn't even collect when I was 3 years old, like when this card came out, but you just pulled a good one. Roman Anthony, you know, from Dempsey. I love Wichita State. I would have been thrilled if he went to Tulane, but his parents have roots in Nebraska. So for him, it was coming home. And so Nebraska got a good one. And so I'm not surprised that program's on the rise because they got a great stadium. They have great resources. They got a great fan base with people like you. And their recruiting is fantastic. They're finding the talented kids. So
yeah,
watch
in
out
fact,
for the Big Ten.
So yeah, Will Bolt, the head coach, he actually played at Nebraska when I was traveling with the Nebraska team in the late 90s. He was down at Texas A&M when I worked at Texas A&M. Rob Childress is the pitching coach, and I was on the hiring committee that hired him away from Nebraska to come down at Texas A&M, and they're thrilled that he's back here in Nebraska. He's a genius. The number of players in pro ball right now that went through Rob Childress, so he'll be under good guidance when he gets up here to Nebraska. They're good people.
One kid found a mantle in the rain. One old friend came back with the same old chain.
Talk to me about the reaction of the players, the other players, when they see this bat putter. Are they flipping out? They freak out when they see it?
And they see it and they're like, they just stop. Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
So the reason why I asked that question is because I had that experience literally yesterday. So when I first got the bat putter, I think I bought it 6 months ago, and it's customized for the Republic Baseball League, which is so cool. And now that I realize, now that I love it so much, and I got to use it yesterday, I'm like, I got to start buying them for different people. Like anyone's a guest on my show, they're gonna get a bat putter, okay? Yeah. But the point is, I never use it because I thought it was too sacred to me. I keep it in my office like a sacred shrine. It means so much to me. But then I was like, after watching all these videos and stuff like that, I'm like, you know what? There's this indoor amazing place in Kansas City called Tap-Ins. Okay, they have an outdoor putt, but also indoor. And depending on the weather, the whole thing, it's an amazing atrium, and it's become a successful business. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? That's a perfect. It was a hot day. I'm like, it's a perfect thing to do. So my buddy Paul Greenwood, who I featured in my first book, we went and played around. And when I showed up with this bat putter, people were freaking out. They were literally losing their minds, and that's when I realized. So then, and then, by the way, it was a Sunday, middle of the day, hot as heck. I want to see how it gets made, but you probably do actually.
I want to see if there's quality control testers there.
But you know, attention! If anyone in the tops is watching, Grip and Rep we want to get invited to a tour at a factory. The two of us.
I told them I would work for free.
Right.
I would work absolutely free. I want to see how their stuff's made.
Yeah, I'm curious. But like collation is like I'm sure there's a bunch of engineers that sit around and design.
Got some breaking news for you.
Yeah.
Slab just texted me.
No way. What do you say? The
Looks like this is the first year to hear it. Who is that?
Right.
Let me see here.
Breaking news. Grip and Rep. Breaking news.
Oh, U.S. agent. Okay, so I just got told that the finest mega boxes are going to be really, really, really good.
Oh, interesting.
1.6 numbered cards a box. So you're guaranteed one numbered card with a 60% chance to pull a second numbered card.
Wow,
and
interesting.
Autos are 1 in 3.
Whoa. So do you think that Topps decided to go big because this is their first year with Topps Finest in retail?
I'm going to say yes. Yes.
Right? Because
I do think so.
You usually get so upset with the delayed numbers, they're delaying them. Or maybe, by the way, I don't know if it's a conspiracy that the odds are coming out later. I just feel that maybe they're just not as efficient as they used to be.
You might have watched this game back
I'm sure I did.
Currently, it's
Derek Coleman. Yeah, he was on my fantasy team for sure.
Pretty crazy to think, in the future you would be able to collect that moment that you watched.
Right. And by the way, check that out. It's worth $198 versus the ones that are worth 35 cents because it makes sense. Because the same way that you value your 1964 Willie Mays card, you're going to value your Drazen Petrovic, and you're not going to want to give it up unless it's for a very, very good price because you love that memory. And what's wild is the same way that you get the warm fuzzy feeling with dopamine hit, whatever, when you look at a card on your shelf, it's the same thing. But when you're online at the bank, you don't have your cards with you, Paulie, but you do have your phone, and you can pull up your Drazen Petrovic and pay respect to him and watch a couple of his awesome plays that give you the warm fuzzies because you can. It's wild. And so